7:45 on the dot.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, good morning, everybody. I'm sure people will trickle in as they come in, we should be fine. So first thing on the agenda here I have is about the Google Calendar. Upon meeting with Mr. Valdez, he gave me a sneak peek of the way he uses Google Calendar. And you have like, just, I wanted to comment 95% or more of things on it, and I loved it. I took it and I'm keeping it, something I'm keeping, and making more use of, because moving forward, because, you can just simply plan and invite, and it works out. And I saw one or two people using it, but the way that I saw you getting use out of it, I was pretty impressed, and thankfully, I am trying my best to implement it here. So I have put all the math POCs on the Thursdays. There are options, when you plan something, an event with anybody, with the department, you can invite them, but there's a start date and an end date, so keep that in mind. And then, Google Calendar, it's on the district, yeah?
And you can add the agenda, the working agenda in the,
Oh, yes, that one really took me also. So on my math POC, it's not gonna be too good touch here. So I actually had it here on the agenda items, so you could do that as well. It's pretty nice. You upload files to the calendar. It was really nice. So something I kept as part of my thing I keep. It was pretty good. So then, I've been part of one of these things in scouting, my scouting report.
Oh, okay.
I need to mention that. Teachers in development, right? So that has been the talk of the town this last week. We finally got to meet on that, and we got to congratulate Ms. Marroquin, Ms. Urbina, Ms. Rivera, Mr. Garza, and myself. Mr. Rivera, Ms. Urbina, and Ms. Marroquin. And congratulations is definitely in order.
yes.
And I want to take it as something that I like, of course, celebrations. And my personal thing is that we're going to celebrate it. We're celebrating it. It's great news. But treat it like a birthday in that, and there's a note that I'm going to take on this, is that we should know that it's coming, right? It shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, because the rules are out there. It should be a transparent process, right? It's a fairly transparent process. We have the data is on the max scores, and then we also have the walkthrough data, so 60%, 40%, and those things should be something we should keep in mind and be able to track fairly simply. Right, so I looked at some of the designation, I did what I could, and the calculator, so I kind of looked at some of the formulations here, and in looking at it, I was like, okay, let's work backwards from all of this. If you want to see if you can get it this year, because it's not over yet, we will reapply, and then we have a legal yesterday from Mr. Valdez saying that we are looking for the expansion process. And that's pretty nice as well. So some of the items here are showing that in kind of reverse engineering it, I'm calculating that there are these values that we've been given. Okay, well, there's some values that we've been given. So for example, these were presented to us by Ms. Sanchez last year on those slides. We had the slides still available to us, so we saw some of these numbers. So for masters, your MAP score needed to be a 76 or above. They also mentioned that our observation should be a 4.5 and above for masters. Looking at the weighted system, I don't know exactly how this was, so I was just kind of running some numbers, but yeah, the weighted value of a 76 will give us a weighted value, right, times 60%, and then we have the observation score times another weighted value. You get these final scores. They're sort of arbitrary in the space, right, in the TIA space. But looking at it like this, it kind of gives us a little more solid foundation as to what we're looking for if you, of course, would like to strive for TIA. And the thing is that we can look at it and be like, okay, well, we have an observation score. You can see what you'd be getting. You can see what kind of map score you'd be hopefully vying for, right, to shoot for. So this is kind of where we stood. So for example, I just kind of condensed this one into a smaller calculator here. So we have 76% will give us a final value of 81. Exemplary, your map scores at exemplary at 66% with a 3.9 will give you 70. So these scores are kind of like, I think, the benchmark to hit, the final value, if you will. Moving forward, if our walkthroughs are at 3 or so, give or take, you can still hit that 81.6 arbitrary number, is what I was kind of looking for. Is it still possible to get masters with your map scores with a 3 as a walkthrough average, right? Because it still might be possible.
It is possible.
Yeah, it's still possible with a 96% on your map score according to this. Yes, ma'am?
What is the meaning of three?
This 3?
Proficient?
Oh, yeah, that's proficient. Yeah, we can discuss that in a little bit. I'm just trying to run the numbers first. And then, yeah.
So, I mean, they had our data for, since last year. Do they have any printouts or receipts or anything like that in terms of how they did the tally?
Yes,
Do we have access to that?
yes, you can request it from Ms. Grace Baranowski.
Okay.
I can send you yours, I have that tally, so you can take a look at it. But then, if you dig deeper, there is, you go per class, right? There's per period that you had, and then it's added up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's, so, you know,
Are
the
you
number of
looking-
students.
Are we looking at the map
At the map,
results?
yes.
Yeah,
At the
the
map.
ones that we're able to download, you're looking for something other than what we're able to download?
Well, yes, other than, I can definitely go into the map, I can download
Okay.
the class stuff, yeah. That's what we were using, last year to keep track, actually, when we were using those reports. So, no, I'm talking about, from, Texas.
From Texas
State?
Tech.
Or Texas Tech.
Texas Tech.
Tech is the college. Any receipts or, the data, like, I mean, what do they do with all that stuff? Like, do they provide any sort of, readouts or how they saw the data? Cause, I mean, otherwise, I mean, you can go and you can do those calculations.
There was something that I came across only, not that there was data, but there's a database, you can search your name up and then it'll show you whether you've been recognized or not. Like, it shows you your level of recognition.
But not,
But it's not,
no numbers,
so
just,
they're
so
not
like a word.
transparent with their process.
And so-
We can see here, yeah.
Before, and unfortunately, some departments were told prior to even sending off the data, this is my understanding, it's like, hey, you will get it, or you won't, or, yeah, I mean, from what I heard, prior to being sent out, because it goes to Texas Tech, and then they do something, you know, they work with the data and say like, oh, no, we need to have these cutoffs here, or what have you, and then they say yes or no. And so-
Yeah, cause last year they were saying it was definitely related to like a specific cohort of ours, like, I was teaching mainly Algebra 2, so it was just the Algebra 2 class, not data, that was, pertinent. And, that's what they were saying, it's not.
Yeah, so, Grace Baranowski has more information.
Well, and also, you know, we've been looking for that original, write-up. You know, you guys should think about amending it. It'd be good to see the original,
Okay, the original,
grant for the TIA.
the original, application.
Yes.
Like the blueprint.
Mhm.
Yeah, the one that explains all the rules, where these rules were coming from. For example, last year, a big question that the department had was, we have 90% of our students testing, like, we can't find the other 10%, but then we just had directives saying, we need more tests, we need more students testing, we need more. Where's the numbers, you know, just to be transparent with it, of course, we want as many as possible, right? But where the cutoffs are in being being transparent of everything, we have to be transparent. Questions on that? I know Felicia brought up a lot of questions last year too, with all of these things, right? But yeah, it's just in the sake of transparency.
Okay.
Yeah, just to see the final blueprint, I think would be fair. But,
Yeah, cause then we can all kind of put our heads together in terms of like the rewrite or how to expand it,
yeah,
expand the circle.
Mhm.
fine. But thankfully it is here. I mean, I don't wanna get rid of it. It's something that's pushing us, I think, a little bit in the right direction. So yeah, so I made up these. I mean, it's as much of the blueprint as I could have created, right? So you understand these kind of arbitrary numbers. If you wanna hit master still with a walkthrough of a 3, you can get it with a 96% map score, ideally. And it still has to run through Texas Tech, so even our data, our results probably might not be final until Texas Tech gives us the final yes. If you wanna hit recommended to get that 78, the exemplary status, 78% map score with a walkthrough of 3. To get the first one recognized would be 55 with a walkthrough of 3. And then here I could test anybody's numbers if you want to see somebody's numbers or something like that. If you want to get a 3.5 and get masters, I know this one was a question, I know because maybe not the 3s, but 3.5, you can drop that 96 to a 90% map scores. So that's kind of what we were looking at. And then there was the question of the bigger elephant in the room is the payment status, right? So I looked up, there was some files that I found online, and so there was some files that I picked up online, and let me zoom in out. Just change, there we go. Oh, there. Okay, yeah, so what I did see was, the payouts. Oh, yeah, so this is how the payouts work. There's a base value that the schools are starting off at, with the base value for recognized exemplary and masters. Then there's a multiplier value that was provided on the document, right? There's a document up there, I can pull it up in a second. And then this point value, this multiplier, is a value given to each of the rural schools. So some students or some schools, and depending on their rural location, can get an extra multiplier value. And this value is 1 for if you're not rural at all, right? So 1.0 value. And then depending on your situation at your school, you can go up to a 4. Ours, we looked at it backwards because of some of the leaks that happened at the school board meeting. There was a school board member that mentioned that somebody received the masters at 29. So we worked backwards and we figured that our point value is 2.8. So you can see that this is kind of an expectation to have, which is just more information, more transparency. So this value here doesn't change for either of the 3, any of the 3 levels here, right? So yeah, the designation, so they all have their certain values here, just more transparency on that one. I don't believe, I thought before in the past we were thinking that there was a scale in between, depending on what kind of score you received, but it seems like there's just 3 levels and that's it, 3 levels. That's from my understanding.
There's a range in the
Oh, within?
economic, yeah, and in the rural. Like,
Yeah.
there's a range, like say, recognize will get 6 to 10 or whatever it is, and then it depends on the community and the district.
Okay.
But what I got was just a range. That's all I got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, just the range, so,
Yeah.
but I'm seeing that value, was like a 2.8, working backwards. Was there more, scales in between the 3?
No.
Oh, no, probably not, okay. Yeah, there is, yeah, but this is a calculation created by, the state, right, with that rural,
Yes.
yeah, that rural value that they give us.
So that touch houses might be different from pallets, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, and then, so that was kind of trying to open up the conversation to the designation, and then I would like to open up, where the next point here is, let's talk about walkthroughs. We gotta get to the nail on the head. Would anybody like to speak to their experience with walkthroughs? This is a moment for us to improve on walkthroughs, and moving forward, what can we do from here with walkthroughs, right? And I'm glad Mr. Valdez is here to help us along as well, because this is where it's at. It's a huge component of our daily activities, obviously, and then now TIA. Are there any experiences with walkthroughs that we would like to see or hear about?
When I sometimes, there's like a rubric, it's 5 sections, right? And then, when you go into a class, the first one, what is it?
The planning is the main one.
And developing,
Oh,
right?
it's
there's
needs improvement,
It needs improvement,
and then developing,
developing,
proficient,
proficient,
accomplished, and distinguished.
and distinguished, right? So when you, needs improvement is like you rarely, the word being used rarely, sometimes, regularly, regularly is only here,
Mostly. The middle one is.
and then often, or no, regularly, and then the last one is often. Right, so, when, or one, just to say a section, allowing kids the time to, or opportunities to respond, or opportunities to think critically, but within 5 minutes, we can't do regularly, we can't do often, because you have 20 kids, 12 kids, whatever, right? So if you go into a classroom, you can't see regularly, you can't see often, little things like that. But then maybe that's the reason that we're getting proficient. Maybe that's the rubric right there. That's what we're looking at. Little words like that. We don't have the opportunity to go to give them many opportunities, many regular opportunities off. It's not. Those are the little things that we see that it's not bad. I mean, proficient is not bad. I guess it's like you said, it's solid. It's
So last year they tell me this, where I wanna be.
huh?
I wanna be there, like proficient, that's what I proficient. This is where I wanna be. And I don't wanna be like that all the time. And I work very hard to have better walkthroughs. And sometimes my students are working 100% and I still receive them proficient. Every single time. Sometimes I had a walkthrough from you and I didn't realize that you were there also. Because I always working, sometimes I don't see who entered the classroom. And sometimes administrators go the last 5 weeks, the last 5 minutes, and then they write on proficient. Okay, you cannot see everything in 5 minutes, in the last 5 minutes. Administrators. And that's what I see every single year.
Agreed.
Now remember, proficient is your solid, right? And so when we go through the training of the rubric, and if you see mine, I don't put proficient with everything until I see something, right? I might go into your classroom, I don't put anything, you know, because I don't wanna put like something that's like, oh, it's not there, right? So proficient, we're trained, right? And we're asked to say like, if you see everything in there, that's proficient.
Yeah.
Right? If there's something that goes to the right or developing, then you have to consider putting developing. And, you know, so we're trained that proficient, we have to put everything. You know, I mean, that we have to see everything there. And sometimes I don't see everything, but I might see like, hey, the objectives are aligned with the lesson. I see the objective, the kids are doing that, so I'll put proficient, you know? Now, if you go into accomplished, all activities are 1, sequenced, 2, relevant, 3, integrate with other disciplines, 4, provide a I have to see all of those, you know, to be able to put accomplished. And you're right, I agree with you, you can't do that in 5 minutes, that's ridiculous, right? But this is more geared to 45 to 60 minutes. So most of the time I use the other walkthrough form, which is the one on the district initiatives, right? Okay, as a student, as a teacher, doing like the small group, or you know, what kind of grouping is it? Is it large group, whole group, small group, or in pairs and things like that? But that's how we're trained, that we have to see everything in order to put the proficient. And the more we have, I mean, the more we have, the more of more accurate data. You know, you get an idea of. But you're right. I cannot in this form. I can't do it in 5 minutes. I have to be there longer.
We had some questions on that form. Does that form that you all use from the district also count as point values like the other form?
No, but we, this year we have to have, like at least 16 or 18 throughout the year, you know, visits or walkthroughs to the classroom. And then you have the summative at the very end.
So, when it comes down to TIA, they're looking at points. So I've noticed, and some of the team members also, that certain administrators use the other, form, and then certain ones use that new form. So does the new form not count for us towards TIA?
It's not, we have to have it required, but then we have the summative, and that's what's gonna count, the summative. And you tally, I mean, you don't tally, but you look at, okay, the teacher has consistently been, accomplished, so the teacher has consistently been at that level. And so as an administrator, you put it in the professional accomplished or whatever.
So
to be
summative is the big one?
the very last
The
one,
main
yeah.
Yeah, so like in terms of value, that other form, cause there's one form with the check marks that makes it easy to get a value out of, if we're speaking of values. And then the other one doesn't have values on it, so I think also, that's part of the question, right?
Yeah.
Asking how does that get converted to a value?
So when we talk about the requirement of minimum walkthroughs, do we need to go and add up all the walkthroughs that are using the district form and subtract them from the total?
No, we can, it's all connected.
Oh, okay.
But when you do have your summative with your administrator, right, you say, hey, look, this is what I've done, this is my, but when you've gone into the classroom, this is what you've seen, other administrators have seen this, it's right here, and so that's part of the summative process. It shouldn't be just sign here, yeah, that shouldn't be that. It should be a conversation, and hey, this is what I have, I've been consistently doing this. When you go into my classroom, you see engagement, you see kids talking, or kids working together, collaborating consistently.
And the cutoff would be the last day of school?
It'll be, I think it's like 10 days before the message.
10 days.
It should be the last.
Got it.
Yeah. So for now, I guess we can only refer back to this document. It's on the TDA website, right? It says, like, let's look at this, focus on it more closely, and if something pops up to you, some sort of techniques or what have you, bring it into the conversation. I mean, this is what we're using, this is what Mr. Valdez is using. There's no way around that part about it, right? So this is what we're using for walkthrough, and yeah.
And as far as our,